one symbol, one prophecy. The sky burned. Rome did not fall that day, it was reborn. Part 2. Constantine's men were hardened veterans, outnumbered but loyal. They had marched with him across Gaul and through the Alps. Many were not Christians. Few understood the meaning of the strange symbol on their shields, but all of them knew one thing: their emperor believed, and that belief had become contagious. The order came, trumpets blared, drums thundered, and the Roman plains trembled. Constantine led the charge personally, a bold move, almost reckless. On horseback, his purple cloak billowing behind him, he became more than a general. To his men, he looked like destiny itself. His cavalry, tightly formed and disciplined, smashed into Maxentius's flanks with ruthless precision. Arrows darkened the sky, shields shattered. The front lines bled and broke. But the battle was not yet won. Maxentius's forces fought ferociously, rallying around their emperor's golden standard. The clash surged back and forth across the field like a storm. At one point, Constantine's advance faltered. His right wing almost crumbled. But then, something changed. Whether it was the discipline of his troops, the exhaustion of Maxentius's men, or something more ethereal, the tide turned. Maxentius, sensing collapse, gave the signal to retreat across the temporary bridge. But panic had already spread. The wooden structure, never designed for a mass withdrawal, began to sway, then buckle, and then catastrophe. The bridge collapsed. Hundreds of soldiers plunged into the Tiber, armor dragging them into the depths. Screams echoed against the riverbanks. Horses flailed, men drowned. And amid the chaos, one figure, clad in imperial robes, trying to flee with the standard of Rome, was dragged beneath the current. Maxentius was dead. His broken body, soon to be dragged from the Tiber and paraded through Rome's streets, marked the end of a tyrant. But in this blood-soaked moment on the battlefield, a new emperor stood triumphant. Behind him, the Chi-Rho blazed on every shield, rippling on every banner, a symbol of a faith now woven into the empire's soul. Constantine hadn't just won a war, he had shattered the reign of the old gods. In Constantine's memory, one moment outshone all else. Not the clash of steel, nor Maxentius's fall, but what had come before. Days earlier, as his army marched toward Rome, the sky over the plains of northern Italy glowed with an eerie radiance. The sun hung low, the clouds aligned in an unnatural dance. And then, something emerged, searing itself into history. It wasn't a vision reserved for mystics or prophets. It was seen, we're told, by Constantine himself, and by many of his men. A blazing cross of light hovering above the horizon, intersected by strange Greek letters, X, P, Chi, and Rho, the first letters of Christos, and then came the words. In the twilight of Constantine's own recollection, years later told to the Christian historian Eusebius, he swore it happened. In hoc signo vinces, in this sign you will conquer. It was not just a vision, it was a command, a prophecy. That night, shaken but resolute, Constantine ordered his soldiers to paint the symbol on their shields. The next morning they marched, not under Jupiter's eagle, nor Mars's spear, but beneath a cross. Not all understood. Some murmured, others doubted, but none could forget the moment the skies lit up with a sign older than Rome itself. Skeptics would later say it was a trick of the light, a sundog, a hallucination born of stress. Others argued it was political theater, a clever move by Constantine to win Christian support. But ask the man himself, he believed it, deeply, enough to stake an empire on it. And on the blood-soaked banks of the Tiber, it seemed the prophecy had come true. Maxentius, the man who mocked Constantine's faith, who trusted in ancient rites and pagan omens, had fallen into his own trap. His forces lay scattered. The city gates of Rome creaked open, not to a conqueror, but to a chosen one. The old gods were silent. The new god had spoken, in light, in fire, in victory. And from that day forward, Constantine would no longer be just a Roman emperor. He would be the first emperor of a Christian empire. The cross, once a symbol of shame and execution, had become an imperial standard, not just for battle, but for destiny. Rome had seen victors before, generals returning in triumph, emperors cloaked in purple and bathed in the adoration of the people, but nothing like this. As Constantine entered the Eternal City, the streets did not erupt in wild jubilation. They watched in awe and in silence. The Tiber still carried the bloated corpse of Maxentius, dragged from the river where his bridge of escape had collapsed. A grim warning, perhaps, to those who defied fate or divine will. No mass executions followed, no reign of terror. Instead, Constantine presented himself not just as a conqueror, but as a restorer of peace. He pardoned many of Maxentius's officials. He restored order. But one message was clear. A new order had begun. On imperial standards, the Chi-Rho began to replace the eagle. Coins began to bear symbols of the cross and inscriptions invoking a single god, the god of Constantine. Though not yet Christian himself, not baptized until his deathbed, Constantine's allegiance had shifted. He would soon co-author the Edict of Milan with Licinius, granting full religious tolerance to Christians across the empire. The days of persecution, of secret worship in catacombs, of martyrs in the arena were over. But this was more than religious policy. It was a redefinition of imperial power. No longer would Rome's strength flow from Jupiter or Mars. It now drew from the god who, in Constantine's eyes, had delivered him victory. A god not of vengeance, but of providence. A god who marked emperors not by birthright, but by vision. And so the empire shifted, not instantly, not without resistance, but undeniably. What happened outside Rome in 312 was more than a battle. It was the turning of the tide. It was the day the Roman Empire began to kneel before the cross. Constantine changed the course of history. The Chi-Rho, once an obscure symbol, was now etched into standards, monuments, and minds. From the spires of cathedrals to the crowns of kings, its shadow would stretch across empires, revolutions, and centuries. So here's the question we leave you with. Was Constantine's vision a divine revelation, a calculated political maneuver, or something else entirely? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We read every comment, and your insights help shape what we explore next. If this story stirred something in you, make sure to like, subscribe, and share it with a fellow history seeker, because sometimes a single moment can echo through eternity.